women I've ever. I hope we got that. Sarla is one of the most impressive women I've ever met. And she is a foremost expert in community building in Israel and also the co-founder of the Varda Institute. She was actually the first PhD in community building outside of social work, and it was groundbreaking in Israel when she did this, and she's created theories and principles on community building. I have also had the distinct pleasure of witnessing the work of the Varda Institute in person. And as many people on this call know, I've been moved and inspired by the trainings I've seen across Israel. So today, we're not going to go into a deep dive about the tenets and the theories of community building. We are not going to make you community builders today. Today is about the Varda Institute stories and about its outcomes. And we want to demonstrate our work and the impact it's had on those we work with. We're here to talk about how to create strong and resilient communities after October 7th. And, some of the questions facing us now is, what will the coming years look like for Israeli society and for worldwide Jewry? And how can we deepen the relationship between Jews all over the world? And for the pop quiz that's going to be coming at the end, the answer, it's always community building. So I know some of you are new to the Varda Institute or don't know so much about this nonprofit, but the fact you showed up today speaks to the power of the Jewish people. During times of conflict and hardship, and we are most certainly in one of those, our resilience for one another and our reliance on one another and our need to show up for each other is the most critical thing we can do. So today we gather because we need your support. We hope you take this hour, not just to hear our stories and our testimonials, but to become our partners and our advocates. The requests for the Institute, the services of the Varda Institute have gone up 300%, and the need is greater than ever. As an American living in Israel for the past 2 years, I want to say what I've seen firsthand. The strength of the social fabric in Israeli society is one the whole world could actually learn from. We entered a public school in Israel and we didn't know anybody. My kids had no friends and they didn't speak a word of Hebrew. And Israelis just opened up their lives to us. They opened up their arms to us. The children were friendly and open. Parents gave to us without asking for anything in return. And it was like really clear from the beginning that community building is part of their DNA. And we felt also during the war, we felt an incredible connection to others. And it was very powerful. But I have to say, as the months have gone by, Israelis are in crisis. The Jewish people are in a new and scary chapter in our history. There is tension, there is divisiveness, there's a loss of trust between the Israeli people and her government. But, and Israelis don't always believe this when I say it, but I can see it because I'm an American, there is still a connection between people and a sense of togetherness and an absence of loneliness that the entire world can learn from. And so what the Varda Institute does is we make this natural instinct into a teachable and methodical theory. And we professionalize this knowledge that's inherent in the society. And right now we're working to help communities find their trust back and build their infrastructure again. So that's my intro. We have a powerful program for you today. You're going to hear from Dr. Sarla Shagmi-Wortman herself, who will share about her vision and her inspiration for the work and its meaning after October 7th. She was recently highlighted in the 48 in Israel, and Sarla was featured as one of actually the Israeli leaders exemplifying resilience and focusing on like building a brighter vision for Israel's future. We will then hear from Adel Katir. He is the Northern District Director of Israel's Association of Community Centers. Adel is actually the first Arab Israeli to hold this role, and he's leading multiple regions during one of the most complicated times in Israel's history, and he's the head of 72 villages. So it's an honor to have Adel here today. We will then follow up with Maya Chechik Sharir, and she is the head of our organizational success at the Varda Institute. And she's going to explain to you how your support helps us meet our critical mission. So Sarla, it is my pleasure to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Shira. I'm really excited to see faces that I know and are connected to us from the past and the present. And I'm excited to get to know the new people and new faces I see on this screen. So I want to start and say that the Varda Institute was established by Varda and me so that every person in the world will have a framework of belonging. We really believe that when people feel that they belong, they feel good. And when they feel good, they do good. They will then, and we saw it all over, make their surrounding a better place. And I want to explain maybe from the personal point of view how I got here, who I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and how it's connected to the establishment of this institute. So I'm the daughter of a Holocaust survival mother and a communist father from Romanian who immigrated to Israel a year before I was born. They were new immigrants, and until the age of 5 in Israel, I was born and raised in a Babel, in a European Babel, didn't know a word in Hebrew in Israel. And I was born in a very mixed home. My father, as an educator, really believed that person is good in their nature. But my mother, as a Holocaust survivor, suspected everyone and believed that people are dangerous. She always felt like a stranger. She was and felt a refugee all her life. And the fact that she knows 5 languages was like a survival necessity of her. She felt rejected and didn't felt belong. So I think in many, many dimensions, from a very young age, as a native Hebrew speaker, I was sensitive to the underdog. For those people who don't feel part, for those who are left behind. So from the very early stage, I committed myself to create opportunities for people to feel a sense of belonging. And I think community is a brilliant, genius idea, maybe the best way to give people to feel it all over the world. So it's not so not clear how I got that the vision of the Varda Institute is to create gatherings and committees and roles and all kinds of opportunities so people all over the world can feel part of something. So who we are, so the Varda Institute is actually a team of 15 experts in community building, the theory we ourselves developed, all with specialists in focus areas. Some of us has background in nonprofit organizations, some on rural communities, some in religious communities, women focus and other issues. And what do? We work with organization communities all over the world, Jewish and non-Jewish, nonprofit and businesses, municipalities, schools, synagogues, activists, young adults. Actually, we work with everyone. And we define the challenges. That's what we do with them. We help the organization, the communities to define their challenges, friction, and pain points that lead to miscommunication, breakdowns, conflicts, and lack of trust. We lead strategies, meetings where everyone is heard and advice on how to create structure, role, committees, ceremony, regular events, and gatherings to those frameworks, what we call frameworks. And the work of the Varda Institute is that through these frameworks that stay after we leave, people can feel that they can bring their qualities. We in the Varda Institute will never ask people, and we never, even if in the most poorest village will ever be, what do you need? We will always ask people about their strength, about what they can give, and people can be proud of what they bring. And then for that, they can be valued. This gives them a feeling that they are part of a community because of who they are, because of their strength. So I want to give you like a small example. For example, when we will work with the school, we will work with the parents, the teachers, school leadership, and the students. We will create gatherings and meetings where all these parts can share what is their unique role in the school to make sure that every teacher, student, and a parent is seen for their uniqueness. The most potential part of the belonging is that people are seen for their qualities and their uniqueness. And these organizations will come to us with different challenges. They can come to us saying that they have low turnout, or people don't want to give, or don't want to be involved. Nobody wants to be in the chair. How do you bring young families? How young adults will be part of us? I always say, it doesn't matter what's the problem, you'll see community building is the solution. Because we know that people are people all over the world, and community is community all over the world. And Shira, I like to say what every time Shira says that all the knowledge, all these experience, if it all was prepared us to the most challenging moments of October 7th. And I want to say a word about that. My world, our world collapsed immediately. I think now, 8 months later, we are different people, different society since then. The moment the war started, we decided that we will work with everyone in Israel, regardless of their political beliefs, their financial ability, religion, nationality, doesn't matter where they live in Israel. So we found ourselves working with communities from the Golan Heights that were evacuated to communities that had to be in the hotels after they destroyed their places, with the hostages families, the Bedouin villages in the south, with the settlers in the territories. 5 days after the war started, we developed a model of community in war. And when we invited the open public, 600 people came on the Zoom 10 days after the war started. And we were called since then throughout Israel to help people cope and organize themselves and deal with these challenges. In these challenging times, strengthen the community, which we'll talk much more later. But I just want to give you one moment that just happened this week and maybe can amplify the complexity we are working in. And I want to take you to that moment. So on Sunday, I found myself driving to Kiryat Gat. Kiryat Gat is a city in the south with high buildings. Just imagine yourself in high buildings, to a neighborhood with high buildings in a new neighborhood, and that was just constructed. So you can see construction all over. And I'm on my way to meet Kibbutz Nir Oz management team. Kibbutz Nir Oz is the most hurted community since October 7th. That third of its 300 members were murdered and killed. 15 people were sitting in the room where they moved. They moved to the hotels and they moved them to that building. So imagine people who lived all their life in the rural area had to live now in buildings, and they're meeting in one of them. 15 people are sitting in the room from different ages, from the establisher that are now 80 to 85 years old, and the young adult between 35 to 45. And they are sitting together. We were called to that in order to understand. So before I'll tell you the challenge, so in order to understand the loaded atmosphere in the room and the huge painful challenge that we were invited to discuss and lead with them, you have to remember, and I knew it in my head, that everyone who sits in this room in front of me lost their immediate family. The community organizing Ziv lost her father and her brother, which were murdered in their houses. The chairperson, a woman, 80 years old, her husband, 85 years old, is a hostage while we are sitting there. And three of the young women that are sitting in this room just came back from Gaza as hostages. All of them, the terrorists destroyed all the buildings in its, and it's almost the only place from all the south that will have to be rebuilt from scratch because everything is destroyed. And we were chosen, the Barda Institute, by them 2 months ago to lead the community process that you can imagine that we never did, how to rebuild this community and how to think about their way coming back to where they are. And why it was so painful. And talking about the future of this community, while the most horrible challenge that is in front of them is that painful disputes are that either to return to where to rebuild their new kibbutz there. Is it in the same place or in another spot? Some of the young families there are afraid and feel guilty as parents to go back. Some of them are traumatized, going back, as they said there, to the sidewalks and to the places where their dearest were murdered and do not want to go back. And for the other part, the establishers, their parents, not going back is to give up. That's the meaning of Zionism. They went to the desert to build the new state. So now, not going back to give these terrorists the achievement, they will not fail. And this so painful dispute that is connected to the deepest identity, who they are in the world, the Jews, the Israelis, is there on the table. So what the Varda Institute, what we are doing with them, is a process of small group discussion that invites everyone to dream together. Doesn't matter if they want to go back or not, about the future of the kibbutz, regardless where they will be. Set for 2 hours with painful moments, but at the end was a feeling of a small optimism. And imagine on the wall, there is the pictures of those who are still hostages in those moments, right? So people started to laugh a little bit. We started to talk about the next meeting. And sitting back in the car, I'm breathing. It was so difficult, but I'm breathing and I'm feeling a little bit better because I felt that we did something. And then I opened the radio, and on the news, we got a message. We hear it, that the army, an hour ago, found 4 bodies, hostages, 3 of them from Nir Oz. One of them is the husband of the chair of the kibbutz that I just was sitting with her, leading the process and talking about the future. So in these unbearable realities, community building gathers people together and support the ability of individuals through the strength of the collective community as a whole. This is what holds me, gives me strength, me and our team, to go back to Nir Oz, knowing that the work of community building will shape not just the future of Nir Oz, but the future of all of us as a healthy, strong society in Israel.
Wow. That's intense, Sarla. That's hearing you say it like that. I know the story and I'm so moved. So moved. Wow. I think it's also interesting because we're going to hear from Adele next. And so what Sarla is talking about is working with a community that's already a community with a horrible, enormous challenge that already have been living together as a very, very strong community. And our next speaker, Adele, is going to talk about a much bigger and more disparate community, working with, cities and municipalities, and how do you build that same language of community building in such a big group. But I want to give Sarla a moment because that was such a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I'm still sort of processing some of the things you said. Oof. Adele, I actually had the pleasure of talking to Adele shortly after the war began. And I was so moved by his lessons about community building with like big municipalities with 72 cities and towns under his control. And what I was most touched about was his optimism, was that here we had just suffered so much. Adele comes to the table with a different set of experiences being an Arab Israeli. And what shined through in talking with him was that he still can be optimistic about the future. So Adele, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor to have you. And if there's anything you want to say in Hebrew, we have plenty speaker is here who can translate to English. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you understand my English. So it's hard to be after Sarah, after what she said. And I will start with that it's two part. It's part before October 7 and part of after October 7. Before October 7, we worked with the community center in the 72 cities, villages, the most complicated area in Israel. It's the north. We find that the multicultural of the citizens there and the communities, it's for Jewish, Islam, Druze, Arabs, Bedouin, everyone live in the same area in the north, and we must work with each local community in a special, we called it a special language of community building. It's take us with Sarah for 5-6 years. Each one in the, we start with the employer in the community center, in the municipality, and in the community, and the citizen who want to be involved, to be to powerful. The community, they study the language of community building. And after October 7, I think it's helped us to talk in the same language. And I will explain how it's made for us. I said it's very complicated area in Israel. And for me, as a citizen of Israel, Arab citizen, it's more complicated to be a director of the north of 72 cities and villages. And I meet people that after October 7 feel that I one of them, one that have to be optimist, that the situation will change. The first 10 days, we know it's not to talk about what happened, ella talk about what we doing, what should we doing now. And we start in 3 cycles. The first cycles, it's the people, the cities, and the villages that take him out of the area, and they give him hotels in Tel Aviv, in Dead Sea, in Eilat, in the center of Israel. And the second cycle, it's people who במרחק 5 קילומטר, it's far away from the border, 5 kilometers.
Yeah, everyone in the 5 kilometers from the border has to be evacuated because you can't
Yes,
live.
but they're still in their home, but they're still in a war, in full war. And it's complicated for them because they can't move for anywhere, and they can't do anything with education, with the action, with the youth, with the children, with the parents, with the war. And the third cycle, it's far away from the border, but they still feel that they are in the war. They can do everything, but in their feeling, they are sad, they are angry about what happened. After 2 months,
Adel, just a minute. I just want to amplify something. The government of Israel recognized and gave an order for the evacuated settlements until 5 kilometers. They gave the money to be in hotels. The second circle, which is above 5 kilometers, are not recognized to be evacuated, but they can't really stay there. So either they have to stay, so you can't do actually your life. You cannot have education. You cannot because the system is not operating, but you are not recognizing to be evacuated. So some of the people have to stay because they don't have money to go to their hotels today. So they are stuck in between. And now what he talks about, that the third cycle that seems like far away, he says, there are other, but now we get every day, few times a day, warnings that we have sirens going far deeper to Israel. So what was at the beginning, the third circle is already bombed also, but they are not recognized still. So that's the complication that Adel talks about.
Okay. Like I can give example like Nahriya. Nahriya, it's a city close to the border in Rosh Hanikra. It's 70, 80,000 people live there. They didn't move, but they in the war in the first day of October 7, but they can't do anything. So I said after 2 months, 3 months, people start to organization between their self, special for the people who are in power, like נכסים, איך אומרים נכסים, שרה?
Sarale.
Assets.
נכסים
Yeah,
מקומיים.
People's assets. Sally, you're on mute.
I didn't. Local assets.
local.
The assets, because we talked about that we don't talk about needs, we talk about local assets of the community.
So they start to build a group in the hotels, but after that, the hotels are people start to move from the hotels, and they have the new challenge, how to bring them back to be a community. This is the main challenge now that we have to start think about it. And I will give something that happened yesterday. Yesterday, my work start with moving from village to cities to village. I start with Ma'alot Tarshiha. It's close to the border. It's also city with multicultural citizen, Arabs and Jews live together. And the main thing that the mayor there said to me that he thinks that the community building is the main challenge that he have to think about it, not think about building schools, building homes that bombs from the world. He want the community building. And after that, I met the mayor of Metula. Metula, it's the last village that close to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Each day, I think everyone in Metula, it's moved to the hotels. Just the mayor and soldier there. I met him yesterday, and he also said that the main challenge that he will think about it to come back to the village, it's the community building, and I agree with him. I think that is the things that the government and the municipality and the mayor and the citizen must think about how to build the community again.
One thing
Yes.
I want to interrupt you, Asaf, Adele, because I remember you shared this with me earlier, was once everyone had this shared language of community building, the municipals, the business leaders, the school administrators, the heads of obviously the government, they were able then to work together easier. Because everyone's speaking now this language of community building, and they're, first of all, even just getting them to know each other. That in itself is community building, right? That everyone gets in the same room and knows who they're working with. But then once they have a shared language, some of the obstacles and the differences facing them don't feel so big, and they're able to talk to one another differently.
Yeah, I
And
think
examples of this. Yeah.
I think, Shira, that I think in the language of community building, we called it, or Sarah called it, the four players. The four players in the local community, the municipality, the government, the business sector, and the non-profit organization. They must work together, that there is no one interest for each one. All of them, they have the same interest, because the language, it was important for us to start with them now, because each one, I think in the war, each one want to say to the world that he is the most important thing for the community. The government want to be sure that do the work exactly what the community is supposed from him to do. But in this area, I think, because they know that together they can succeed more, so they talk about the same language that called each one to be part of this succeed.
It's amazing. It really, it's that what you just identified, where you have community building works when you're working with people who don't know each other and who have to build this language so they can get along. And community building can be equally important for a community that's already cohesive, that has intergenerational connections, but still has issues sometimes talking together or facing insurmountable challenges. And I think with the two interesting stories that we just heard from hearing for a kibbutz Nir Oz who've been together for generations versus municipalities and business leaders and nonprofits who may not know each other, who also have to work together, how community building has been a tool for each of one to face the challenges following October 7th that are so clear and in front of them. So I don't have anything else to add, because I love hearing, I'm so impressed by the work you do, because it's so hard. It's so hard what you're doing, and yet you do it with a smile.
Yeah, I think it's the hard, because that each day we have a new challenge. I can told you yesterday I've been in Khorfeish in the morning, and the evening Khorfeish get 2 bombs and killed soldiers, one soldier, and we have, like, it's amazing how I remember in the morning I moved from this area that get the bomb. So I will start to think about the new challenge that I will bring with me in Sunday, in 2 days. So in the 244 days from October 7, I think we live a challenge after challenge, and we must be like, I don't know, thinking a lot about what more important now. And I think people know that the community building is important. The other things, we can get it from money, from needs, or buildings, things, physical things, but communities building, it's the main vision of us to build in the North.
And I want to just close with Adel, because when we first spoke right after the war, I asked him to give me 5 words. We asked for 5 words that would sort of embody the community building work he's been doing. And he said, to learn, to act, to be persistent, to never give up, and optimism. And then he said something that really stuck with me. He said, a world that gives us new challenges every minute, we must be optimists. And that idea that what he just said, you get a bomb the next day, and so he has to go back on Sunday, and he has to be optimistic about the future, because there is no other way. And I think this is what I've seen time and time again by the work of the Varda Institute across communities in Israel, is this: just roll up your sleeves, and we have to keep moving forward despite hardship. And how can we, and it's so much easier when we're all working together. Thank you so much for your words, Adel. That was really powerful. It's so interesting. I want to hear about it all day long. I have a million more questions, but in the interest of time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last person we have
Thank you.
speaking, I don't know, feel free to interrupt. But the last person we have speaking today is Maya Chechik-Shamir, and she's the head of our organization Success. Maya actually is going to explain to us about kind of how your donations can help us in the work we do with organizations. She has actually, it's her birthday tonight, and she had a Simcha birthday celebration. So she is sharing her remarks with us via a video. So let's take it away. Thank you, Asaf.
Hi, thank you for joining us today, and I'm sorry I can't be with you. As Shira shared, I'm Maya, and I head the Consultants and Organization Group at the Varda Institute. I manage our community building experts who lead the work on the ground that you heard about today, as well as leading the efforts in front of the organizations that we support. I met Sarla over 6 years ago as a participant in a day school workshop that she led at the time. At the time, I didn't know it, but that workshop was going to change my life. I was an organizational consultant and group facilitator working primarily with Israeli-American tech organizations. After just 2 hours, Sarla gave name and framework to concepts that I've been grappling with for years. And I immediately started to implement them. And as a result, I noticed that the groups I led suddenly had a stronger connection amongst participants. They stayed in touch way beyond the program and worked much better together. Fast forward, I returned to living in Israel after living many years in the States, and at the same time, Varda Institute was founded. I immediately joined the effort. We began to accompany a large array of communities, groups, and organizations in this journey through guidance, teaching, facilitation, and consulting in adopting principles of community building and weaving them into how they operate. It feels important to start sharing my reflections of October 7th. Life is really divided by before and after that day. October 7th. To a certain extent, it's like an outer body experience. I feel like I'm observing everything that is happening since then from the outside, hoping to wake up from this awful, devastating dream. These months are still shaping and influencing our day-to-day life with never a dull moment. Yet somehow, and sometimes I'm not really sure how, life continues and goes by. And tomorrow we will mark 8 months. We're a resilient nation, and today we live a life defined by two very opposing and contradicting ends. On one hand, our beautiful beaches are filled with family, dogs, pets, young children, older generations, but with hostage pictures on the lifeguard station. We go out to the theater, we go out to concerts, but performances open up with directions what to do if there's an alert. If nothing happens, my daughter will be graduating high school in 10 days, but that sense of uncertainty is deeply woven into everything we do. And of course, our Saturday nights are dedicated to supporting the hostage families. Everyone is worn out, everyone is exhausted. Yet most of all, I carry a deep sense of sadness that just knows no end. I am not alone in this. However, I am very lucky to be working for an organization that is supporting the efforts of rebuilding and strengthening belonging and community. Always, and especially during these times. Work dramatically changed overnight. From focusing and planning our outreach outside of Israel, we immediately shifted to focusing inward, and we made 3 important decisions. The first, we were not going to turn anyone away. We will say yes to any request that comes our way, regardless of their resources, their location, or their political affiliation. We would help anyone. And that's how we found ourselves supporting the Hostage Family Forum pro bono, working with their team leads to help them leverage, despite the devastating time and situation, the strength each family brings, allowing them to express and contribute whatever they can, and not only be in need of support. We're working with local municipalities all over the country for minimum pay to provide community managers in these municipalities with tools to have people step up, take initiative, and create a greater sense of belonging, engagement, and commitment. The needs just kept on coming. We recruited 2 new consultants during this time. We developed specific content to support the work. Within days, a new addition to our community building model was born. This model looks at what defines a community during pressing times and 10 operating principles that can easily be implemented were created. For example, our 10th operating principle is emphasizing the changing roles community members have these days. You can give support to others one day while being in need of support on another day, making it okay and actually encourage the transition between. between the roles. Those who support and those who are supported are roles. They're not your identity. And we can and we should find ourselves transitioning from one role to another. This is a result of our work. And lastly, the third thing we decided to do is that we will be proactive and reach out to organization, whereas before they reached out to us. Recently, we held a lecture leading the discussion on how communities might mark Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, the Israeli Remembrance Day and Independence Day, during this tough year, leveraging these days to strengthen the sense of belonging and community for all. Initially, we were working in emergency mode. People were at a loss for words. On one hand, there was a great need, of course, to come together, but yet there were no structures or systems in place to make this happen. People didn't know how to get together. Nothing felt quite right. What does one say? What does one do? We were helping organizations, offering them concrete ways to put structure, intent into what felt impossible during this time. Sometimes organizations are reaching out to us with something as simple as helping them intentionally design and structure meetings that they want people leaving feeling a greater sense of trust, commitment, and shared purpose. Crucially important, as Shira shared in her opening. Other times, like with Nir Oz, it's much more complicated, as you already heard. So slowly, through our work model, the Varda Institute is helping define steps needed to build new routines, new identity, new roles, and even, in the case of Nir Oz, redesign the new kibbutz so they will regain the sense of pride, trust, and belonging that they once had. Organizations and community call on us to help them get out of paralysis mode, deal with the influx of people stepping up and wanting to lend a hand, while now, months later after October 7th, they need guidance on how to deal with a decrease in interest. Today, organizations are dealing with holidays and events for the first time. How are they going to conduct the traditional Shavuot ceremony next week of showcasing newborn children when so many children are now orphans? What does Family Day look like, the Israeli version of Mother's and Father's Day, in this absurd reality? How can we encourage people to come together even when energies are low and hearts are broken? On a personal level, I want to share that I feel like there's a whole new array of emotions that I wasn't aware of until October 7th. In this great despair, there's also been great moments of pride, of the ability to not lose our humor, the amazing creativity we have, the ability to keep moving forward as a country, and of course, the ability to come together. I know I wouldn't want to be anywhere else at the moment. And of course, the feeling towards our work has changed. It became even more meaningful. I see how it resonates with so many people, how much it's needed, how we're really changing the world one community at a time. My only regret is that I wish we could do more. I wish we could lead deeper change processes as opposed to one-time lectures, and I really hope that your support will help us do that. I feel privileged to be part of this, and I'm sure you will too. Sarla and I plan to be in the US in the second half of September to hold workshops, meet with potential organizations, meet with organizations we already meet with. So if you're willing and open to making introductions for us at your local JCC, your synagogue, school, federation, whatever it might be, any place you're involved in, please do so. Together, we can make together matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, who's not here, but who recorded those awesome remarks ahead of time. And, you know, one thing she said about the holidays has been so interesting to me because it's been so dramatic and tumultuous in Israel to think about how do we celebrate, how do we be happy while the war still is going on, while so many people are in pain. And one thing I'm so impressed with about Israelis is they still do. They still enjoy themselves. They still find happiness during hard times. And for me, it's been one of the most inspirational parts about living in Israel, that just because you go through crisis and hardship doesn't mean you can't also find joy. Because I think that's the twin of being human, that we can be sad and we can be happy at the same time. So I again, I'm moved by everyone's words. So here, guys, this is it. We're near the end. We have friends today from all over the United States, and you've heard from people from all over Israel. And while we are still reeling from the devastation of October 7th and the aftermath now for Jews around the world with anti-Semitism, we stand together. I really believe that if Jews don't stand up for each other, no one else will. So we are a small people, but we are mighty. And from, as you've heard throughout every speaker on this call, from challenge and hardship comes strength. And I believe, and Sarla said it, and I'm going to say it again, that the Varda Institute was made for this moment. And as Sarla said to you, and she says to me all the time, tell me any problem, and 99% of the time, community building is the answer. So the fact that the Varda Institute the needs for the Varda Institute and requests have grown 300% since October 7th shows we need more people, we need to grow our staff, we have more work to do. So this is our call for action. And Asaf, I'm going to ask you, okay, Asaf, and I just want everyone to know Asaf just got back. Asaf has a full-time job. He is a CFO. He just got back from Miluim for 2 weeks. So he was just in the army in the north for 2 weeks. And then he came right back after sleeping in a room with 50 people and came to this Zoom meeting. And that's Israel. And that's the Varda Institute for you right there. So there are many ways to become an ambassador and to support the Varda Institute, but our top priority right now is fundraising. That's why we're here today. So that's why we're holding this emergency town hall. We hope you can consider giving a gift to support us. We must raise $250,000 this year by the end of the year to meet the increased needs across Israel. And new slide, Asaf. Let me just make sure we're there on the news. Okay, there you go. And here's an example. I'm not going to talk you through all of it, but this is an example of where money goes so you can see where your donations goes. For example, how much does it cost us to do a single workshop? If we want to work with one community 10 times, what is the cost for that? It's $12,000. How much does it cost to fund 5 to 10 hours of working with the Hostage Family Forum? If we're going to do a year's worth of work with a displaced community in the north, how much does that cost? So you can have here, and we'll send it around after the call, concrete examples of where your dollars will go and the critical importance of them. You're hearing on this call of the stories and of the work we're doing. All right, next slide. Let's see. Asaf, one more slide. Thank you. Okay, we also are so lucky that we have a match today. And so one of our generous dear friends and donors from New York, who has already given to the Varda Institute, said that she will match a gift of $10,000 today if we can secure gifts that equal $20,000 after this webinar. So I just want everyone to know every gift you make today matters because it helps us hit our number to get this match. And to wrap up, next slide, Asaf, thank you so much. To wrap up, I want to highlight that we also are going to be creating, and this is a first for us, a Circles of Impact fundraising committee. And so we're going to establish a US-based committee of people that will help people in the committee and I'll be on it with you, stay connected to Israel and help us spread the word of community building and the Varda Institute among in the US. We ask us, introduce us to your network. We will be in the US this fall. We want to be holding parlor meetings. We want to be meeting with potential donors and foundations. And as Maya mentioned, we want to be doing workshops. So introduce us to your synagogues, to foundations, help us spread the word. This is the time people need to learn about the Varda Institute and the important work we're doing. So please leave a chat in the notes about your takeaways and feel free to raise your hand if you want to comment. We have Instagram and Facebook now. These are new, and LinkedIn. So these are new platforms for us, and we're about to launch a new website, and we will make sure that you all, see it when it goes live. Please engage with us. Please, there's a QR code up on the screen. And if you take a picture, that will allow us to get in touch with you and discuss, hopefully getting your support and also about volunteer engagement. So on behalf of everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for hearing our story. And we hope you can take a piece of Israel with you for the rest of the day. Israeli Jews and American Jews cannot exist without one another. Let us build bridges and let us build community together. Thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you.
And we're happy to hear from you if you want to say anything.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending.
Shirley, thank you for doing such a wonderful work and continue what Saleh started. I continue. We need many hands to hold the whole process because we're really dealing with life of people that going and with help that make a huge difference. So thank you all.
Beautiful, Varda. Asaf, can you just show the levels of donations again? Share that screen one more time. I just do want people, I think, and we will share this with you, but I do want people to see kind of what the dollar breakdown is, because it's, you know, it's kind of real. It matters. But thank you, Varda. We wouldn't be here without your vision, you and Sarala's vision. Anyone else want to say anything? I know you guys have things to go and people to do. So I'm sure everyone needs to go and do their thing. I'm reading some of the messages you sent. I'm super, super excited to talk to you, to talk to everyone about this, because this is great. And we'll follow up with all of you. And so get ready to hear from us, because we will be talking and following up.
You. Beautiful. Thank you. I've
Thank
watched this vision grow, and I'm a cousin from California, all of you who don't know me, and I'm proud to be here today. Thank you. Hope is a lovely thing, no matter what.
That's it. And you see there is optimism even with all
Yeah.
that.
And the tools to work together, even under the most impossible situation. That's a great message for all of us. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adel.
Thank you.
Bye,
you, Adel.
bye.